This is my programming assignment 2. For my final programming project, I chose to create an immersive console-based game called Planetary Odyssey. In this game, players embark on a thrilling decision-based adventure that sees them navigate through a captivating storyline. Throughout the game, players visit different planets and encounter new allies and foes. The decisions they make along the way have real consequences, shaping the game's outcome and determining whether they are rewarded or punished for their choices. In addition to making strategic decisions, players can also use a variety of resources to aid them on their quest. They can purchase new spaceships, fuel, and crew members from an in-game shop using the rewards they earn throughout their journey. The ultimate goal of the game is to reach the final planet and defeat the final boss. However, the journey is not without its challenges. Players must manage their fuel and crew resources carefully, as running out of either will result in failure and game over. So first I'm going to go over a few of the key classes here that help our game get up and running. First up, we have our player class. This class has private attributes that represent the player's gold, player's name, player's spaceship, and their location in the universe. Our spaceship here is passed by pointer because we do not know what type of spaceship the player has chosen at the time of compilation. Along with those attributes, we have a few functions here. We have an overloaded constructor, which will take those attributes and build us our player. We have our getters and setters, along with some other functions that help us along the way, such as the display info, which will print out the player's attributes. The save player function will help us later on when we're looking to save the game using I/O files. Here we have a buy new spaceship function, which we will use in our in-game shop to aid us in replacing the player's old ship and using the new ship they have bought. So let's take a look at that function real quick. Here we have this function for buy new ship. Using dynamic allocation, we're going to create a new ship for the player. And we'll see this later when we take a look at the game shop. But basically, this is going to be very useful for us when we're looking to purchase our new spaceship. Here we have our save player function, which will also come in useful later. Pretty much you're copying all of the attributes from the player and its spaceship, and you're writing them onto an output file. This output file will be used later to load the game and help us restart our mission. Next up, I want to show you guys the spaceship class. Here we have our spaceship.h, which contains various different attributes for our spaceship. These include the spaceship type, which is represented by a string, an integer for the fuel capacity, number of crew members on board, and the crew capacity. We've also included an integer that represents the cost to buy the spaceship. Here we're going to have, in the public section of our class, a spaceship overloaded constructor, which will take the attributes I just said and construct a spaceship for us. Along with that, we have our getters and setters, and below that we have our derived class using inheritance. These classes represent different types of spaceships. Each one of these different types of spaceships will have different attributes. For example, the Viper will have a fuel capacity of 100, while the Rhino has a fuel capacity of 75. However, it has a crew capacity of 5, while the Viper has a crew capacity of 3. The reason for having different classes for the different types of spaceships is that they share the same attributes of a normal spaceship, however, they have different values for these attributes. The way we construct these derived classes is we use a default constructor, which calls the spaceship overloaded constructor. Here we implement the various different attributes for the respective spaceship type, and we construct our derived class spaceship. Next up, I'm going to show you guys our planet class. This class will be very useful for us because it contains a majority of the quest dialogue. Here in our planet class, we see some attributes which include name of the planet, a description of the planet, the fuel required, and the hostility level, which could also represent the difficulty level of the planet. In the functions, we find an overloaded constructor for the planet. These include the different parameters I just named, the different attributes, and they will be taken as parameter to construct our planet. We have our getters and setters, as well as some other functions that will help us along the way, such as a display info function to display the planet's information. And here we have an example of polymorphism. This explore function will be used among many different planets that I will show you just in a few seconds here. Other than that, we have some reusable code here, which is just used for quest dialogue stuff. Under that, we have some different functions that will help us in key gameplay stuff. So, for example, this one right here will remove fuel. This one will remove the crew members. We can also add fuel and add crew members. Below, we have a derived class from the planet class using inheritance. So these represent different types of planets. For example, here we have Mars, Draenor, and Argus. Similarly to the spaceship class, we call a default constructor for the derived class, which then calls the planet overloaded constructor. And using the parameters here, we construct our very new, very specific planet class for the respective planet. For example, this one here represents Mars, and it has a description for Mars along with the fuel required to get there and the hostility level. So here we have our explore function, which will contain various different quest dialogues. Each one of these functions can be found in the different planet classes. So next up, I want to show you guys our game class. This will contain a majority of the game logic. Here we can find a couple of ASCII arts that we will use in our game. At the bottom here, we're going to find our public functions, which include a game loop, a main menu function, a couple of quests to aid us in our game, a load game function, which will help us with loading up the game from the saved file that we saw earlier, a quit function. Similarly to the planet class, we have these two functions that will aid us in making our quest. We have a loading screen function here that will play in between missions so the player can view the shop or possibly save the game or quit the game. We also have here a shop option, a save game function, and these two functions here that will add crew or add fuel. I'm running out of time here, so I want to show you guys a quick demo of what this game will look like. Here we're going to start off with a new game. Simply click 1 and you will start a new game. It takes you through a quest dialogue and it promptly asks you for your name. Here you can enter any name you want. You can enter spaces, all types of stuff. So as we continue, it will ask you to choose a type of spaceship. This will take us back to when we made our spaceship object using a pointer. Now we can choose what type of spaceship derived class we want. I'm going to go ahead and choose the Viper. As we continue the dialogue here, we're going to be greeted by the loading screen. This is our loading screen here. So from here, we have a couple of options. We can continue to the next mission. We can save the game. We could view the shop, or we can quit. I want to show you guys really quickly our save game function here. This function will aid us in saving the game. Basically what it does is it takes a player object and calls the save player function that we saw earlier. Right here. So let's try this real quick. We're going to save a game. We'll call the file test. Okay, now we can restart our game and load up our test file. And right back to where we were. Additionally, we can look at the shop. Here in the shop, we can see various different ships, as well as the ability to purchase fuel using the gold we burned through our quest. We're going to choose to leave the shop and not purchase anything. I want to show you guys really quickly our function here for loading the game. Here we're going to see, using the saved file we looked at earlier, we're going to enter the file name and we're going to open an if stream object. Here we're going to read the input and we're going to grab those attributes and create a new player object. Along with, we're going to use a spaceship allocation here, dynamic allocation, to create a spaceship. Then we will set the different attributes for said spaceship and set the ship as a part of the user player. Then we will return the user player. And that's how our load game here works. So, let's see if I can try to lose the game on purpose here. Okay, let me restart the game. Sorry. Okay, let's just skip through a couple of things here. Here we go. So as soon as you run out of fuel, the game will terminate automatically. I'm not able to show you absolutely everything in our game because I'm running out of time, but thank you for watching, and this was Planetary Odyssey.